In Palestine, Israeli bombardments against several areas in Gaza left 7 people killed and more than 30 others injured. In the Netherlands, the International Court of Justice holds a hearing in which Mexico sues Ecuador following the assault on the Mexican embassy in Quito. And in Argentina, the lower chamber of Congress approved in general Milei's flagship project, also known as the Basis and Starting Points Law. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Palestine on Tuesday, at least 7 people were killed and more than 30 locals were wounded after Israeli bombardments against several areas in the Gaza Strip. In this way, the Israeli occupation army fired shells at the refugee camp of Nusayrat, Burej, and Al-Maghazi. On the other hand, the Palestinian authorities informed that in the last hours, the rescue teams recovered the bodies of 6 citizens from the Al-Amal neighborhood west of the town, victims of the Zionist occupation army. Since the beginning of the aggressions against the Gaza Strip by Israel, more than 34,000 Palestinians have been killed, while approximately 77,000 have been seriously injured. In Israel, thousands rallied in protest against the actions of Benjamin Netanyahu's government and its aggressive policy in the Palestinian territories. In this way, demonstrators mobilized in several cities of the country, rejecting the policies of Netanyahu's administration and demanding a ceasefire on Palestine in view of the Tel Aviv's refusal to stop its attacks and negotiate with the Palestinian resistance the handing over of the Israeli detainees. In the midst of the massive protest, Israeli police forces tried to repress the demonstrations by assaulting the demonstrators. Meanwhile, in Canada, university students held a campaign to demand an immediate halt to the attacks on Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Students at McGill University in Montreal demanded a halt to funding the Zionist state of Israel. In addition, they raised their voices to call off ties with Israel academic institutions. Those actions come after student protest organizations released data revealing that 50 of the companies in which the university invests are accomplices of the Israeli regime.
About the collective, McGill invests a lot of money into companies that are complicit in genocide in Palestine and Gaza, into companies that do weapons manufacturing and the such. And as a student, I don't believe that student tuition should be going into anything that violent at all.
In the United States, police continue repressive actions and arrests against student movements that reject the U.S. government's support to Israel as Tel Aviv regime continues its aggression in Gaza. U.S. police arrested former Green leftist presidential candidate Jill Stein and her campaign manager Jason Cole, with other leaders at Washington University in St. Louis. Stein said that at the time of the arrest, she was with students defending constitutional rights and U.S. citizens that are demanding an end to the genocide in Gaza. Meanwhile, protests have intensified despite the authorities' repressive actions.
So the number one goal of this encampment is divestment from the university's complicity in genocide in Gaza. Our endowment is currently invested in military-industrial companies and in other companies that facilitate apartheid occupation and genocide in Gaza. And we're here focused on ending that horrendous violence and specifically calling our institution to account for its own complicity in that violence.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. The International Court of Justice hosts on Tuesday in the Netherlands a hearing in which Mexico sues Ecuador following the assault on the Mexican embassy in Quito on April 5th. In this sense, the Mexican delegation presents a proposal for precautionary measures against the Ecuadorian government after the acts in violation of international law in which Ecuadorian agents assaulted the Mexican diplomatic compound to kidnap and detain the Vice President Jorge Glass. In this regard, Mexico requests Ecuador to take measures to guarantee the full protection and security of the diplomatic premises. For its part, Ecuador sued Mexico before the ICJ for illegally granting political asylum to the former president, considering that the northern country does not comply with the norms of political and diplomatic asylum and anti-corruption conventions.
There are lines in international law which should not be crossed. Regrettably, the Republic of Ecuador has crossed them. The actions undertaken by Ecuador not only transgress the established boundaries of international law, but also have served a disconcerting precedent that reverberates across the international community.
In this regard, Alejandro Celorio Alcántara, Mexico's representative to the International Court of Justice, reiterated that the legal proceedings before Ecuador seek to hold the Ecuadorian government responsible for the attacks on its diplomatic body.
First day in court, we are here to hold Ecuador accountable for the egregious violation of diplomatic law. The forceful entry of Ecuador in our embassy and the egregious attack against the personnel and the dignity of our diplomatic personnel has to have consequences of the same.
In the framework of the public hearing held at the International Court of Justice, the Mexican Foreign Ministry issued the following through their social media account on X. The International Court of Justice will hold the first public hearing in relation to the violent raid by the Ecuadorian police on the Embassy of Mexico and the aggression against the diplomatic personnel which took place on the night of April 5th. This Friday. The communique also indicated that Mexico will present its arguments on the violations of international law committed by Ecuador, specifically in the principle of inviolability of diplomatic headquarters established in the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. Likewise, it emphasized that in view of the initiation of proceedings that Ecuador filed today in the ICJ against our country, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs informs that it is noteworthy that these accusations are presented almost a month after the violent attack on the Mexican embassy. However, the accusations were foreseeable and will be responded to at appropriate procedural moment. On Monday, the government of Venezuela revealed new evidence of the PDVSA crypto corruption scheme. In this sense, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, pointed out that the investigation carried out by the Public Prosecutor's Office has shown conclusive elements which reveal the configuration of a corrupt mafia with the purpose of stealing and destabilizing the country. He also pointed out that the investigations will continue in order to discover and capture the others implicated in the destabilizing plot. At the same time, he affirmed that the former Minister of Oil, Tarek El Aissami, together with Samark Lopez and Simon Serpa, had been maintaining relations for 2 years with the far-right sector and the government of the United States.
They had 2 years working together. This Mr. Samark Lopez is the right hand of El Aissami. From the University of the Andes, our people should know it. This is key. It was a group made up in Mérida, in the University of the Andes. All this corrupt group, captured, investigated, convicted and confessed, all, and at least, according to the pieces of evidence we have in our hands, since 2018. Since January 2018, they have been coordinating the conspiracy. What happened in 2018? The attempt on my life. They were aware of such attempt on August 4, 2018. What happened in 2019? On a day like tomorrow, 5 years after the coup of the Green Bananas, they were posted on the Green Bananas in Altamira, and they were thus coordinated with Leopoldo Lopez. And with the White House directly, the government, John Bolton and partners in crime.
The international seminar Boosting Tourism Development Through Innovation in the Community-Based Tourism was held in Cuba. Precisely, the seminar is the preamble to the 69th session of the United Nations Tourism Regional Commission for the Americas, to be held on Tuesday in Varadero Beach. In the opening speech, Natalia Bayona, Executive Director of United Nations Tourism, talked about social innovation and community, while a ministerial panel discussed the challenges, strategies and good practices for the development of sustainable tourism. The objective of the activity is to promote the development of community-based tourism through empowerment and investments in local communities, as well as to encourage innovation in their tourism products.
Without a doubt, community tourism is synonymous of development, is synonymous of social population, is synonymous of developing rural territories, is synonymous of betting on a new way of doing tourism, and without a doubt of helping all those who want to make an enterprise, to do it with purpose, to help those vulnerable areas, to help those vulnerable populations to return to society, and under a formalization of the economy have a source of work and maybe the economic sector that can reach development faster is undoubtedly tourism.
We stay in Cuba at the Second Congress on the need for a new international economic order that continues in Havana, space to address issues related to the problems that hinder development and world peace. Distinguished economists, academics, experts and politicians from around the world meet to discuss issues arising from an unbalanced economic, political, scientific, technological and military international order. The event allows for the promotion of strategies for the Global South to make sovereign decisions. The meeting coincides with the 50th anniversary of the establishment of a new international economic order approved by the United Nations General Assembly on May 1, 1974. During the Second Congress on the new International Economic Order held in Havana, our correspondent Irma Shelton spoke with Jeffrey Sachs, Director of Colombia's Center for Sustainable Development and the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. Sachs refers to the importance of global cooperation to build a better world.
The main idea is that every place in the world should be prosperous. Every place in the world should take care of the environment. Every place in the world should be treated with respect. So the ideas are very simple, straightforward, but to implement them requires politics, global cooperation. So this is where the big effort is. We need the world nations to say, stop the wars, stop the bloqueo, stop the sanctions, and let's get on with building a better life for the people in the world.
Jeffrey Sachs added he was optimistic as the vast majority of nations support a new kind, more favorable world.
I am optimistic because I see, for example, when the vote in the UN General Assembly comes, should the U.S. stop the sanctions on Cuba? Every country in the world says yes, except for just two, just the U.S. and Israel right now. That's a shame. But I get to go home and say to people in my country and my government, the whole world is telling you to stop your bad behavior. It's time for these sanctions to end. This is what we need to see, that there are powerful forces stopping global progress, but they're not so powerful because the vast majority of the world wants a different kind of world.
We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Argentina's Chamber of Deputies approved in general the basis law, which consists of a package of measures ranging from delegations of power to the national executive, privatizations and dissolution of public agencies. The law, which includes some of the government's main proposals for his term in office, was approved in general with 142 positive votes, 105 negative votes and 5 abstentions. Now the lawmakers continue the debate of the bill, chapter by chapter, to vote on each of the main topics of the law, which include the privatization of state enterprises and the granting of extraordinary powers to President Milei. Later on Tuesday, the Congress will also vote on the government's tax package. On Tuesday, the countries of the Group of Seven, G7, agreed to close all their coal-fired power plants by 2035 at the latest. In the sense, the Group of Seven industrialized economies of the world issued a statement that sets a key objective to phase out the coal-fired power plants within a consistent time frame that maintains the limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius of temperature increase. In the meantime, the G7 energy ministers assured an amount of $600 billion per year to maintain electricity transmissions and distribution networks by 2030. The G7 countries account for 28% of the world's economy and 21% of greenhouse gas emissions.
Coal is one of the major sources of climate warming emissions, a special thanks because there has been significant work by all countries, by the Troika, and particularly by friends representing Japan, on an exit goal. This has been indicated, if possible, by the first half of the next decade. This is the first time that at least a path and a goal have been set.
On Tuesday, the Olympic flame departed Greece for France aboard the iconic ship Belen. In this way, the Olympic flame began its journey aboard the Belen, Europe's oldest three-masted sailing ship, from Greece to the host country of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Meanwhile, the iconic fire will have a 12-day voyage linking the cities of Piraeus and Marseille to add one more chapter to this history of this ship, which 40 years ago was designated as a historical monument. A curious fact is that in 1896, the first Olympic Games of the modern era were held in Greece, and that same year in France, the Belen was built. The route of the Olympic torch relay will be a 2-month journey through the French territory starting on May 8, 2024 in Marseille. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.